Well, we are back with Andy Godfrey for some more movie reviews today. It's been a couple of weeks since we did our last one, and so we've got quite a bit to catch up on, but good to see you, Andy.
Yeah, great to see you, Nathan. Glad you had a good holiday.
Thank you.
I'm off on my holidays next week, so we'll have even more to catch up on the week after that. But yeah, there's been quite a few films. Well, you've been away. I've been to the cinema quite a few times, including Friday afternoon. I was there. Sorry, Thursday afternoon. So hopefully all of this is bang up to date. Anyway,
Okay.
apart from one film.
Awesome. So
So,
we're going
so
to look
that
at.
that one film that's coming out today is Gladiator 2, which, I mean, we've only been waiting 25 years for the sequel to Gladiator.
Wow, is that long?
Yeah, Gladiator was a terrific film. Ridley Scott, Russell Crowe played a gladiator whose family were killed, and he goes after the Roman Emperor for vengeance. Gladiator was a spectacular film. This one looks even more spectacular from the trailer. Being criticised a little bit for being a bit historically inaccurate because we've got gladiators riding rhinoceroses in the Colosseum, which apparently never happened. We know that they used to flood the Colosseum and stage sea battles. If you ever go to the Colosseum, it's an amazing place. I've been there. There's all this stuff in the basement where they could bring up cages with animals in and bring up gladiators in different cages, and they could
Wow.
flood it, and they could actually stage sea battles in the arena. And but they never had sharks. This film shows them having sharks. Sea battles. There were no sharks in the Colosseum, but it looks spectacular. But I'll report back on it because it will still be, I think, in the top two or three at least when we
All
come
right.
back in. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to work backwards, I guess, from the 10 toward the top one?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start our top 10 with number 13.
Okay.
Because this is still in cinema. So this is a film that I absolutely loved and is heading probably for my top 10 of the year, although we'll see, when we do the end of the year show. So a film called Juror Number 2, or Juror hashtag 2, to give it its exact title, Juror hashtag 2. This is a courtroom drama written and directed by Clint Eastwood, of all people. So Clint Eastwood, well into his 70s, still making movies. He's got a fantastic cast. Nicholas Hoult plays the juror of the title. He is called for jury service. It's a murder case where a young lady was thrown over a bridge on a country road and killed, and her boyfriend is accused of the murder. However, what transpires is that Nicholas Hoult, one of the members of the jury, was on the same road that night. And did he or did he not hit the young lady?
Wow.
Um, so it becomes a really tense courtroom drama. It's got lots of twists and turns. And it reminded me a little bit of a film called 12 Angry Men, which is one of the greatest movies ever made, which was in the 50s, starred Henry Fonda, who, again, it was a murder case. And one of the jury persuaded all the other 11 members of the jury to change their minds and let the guy be not guilty. It's a brilliant film. You need to see 12 Angry Men. I think this is a must see. It's really, really exciting. The story's told in flashback. So, he sat there in the court listening to the lawyers describing the events of the night in question. And then we go back to that night and we see it through his eyes, kind of thing, because he was on the road that night and he did see the young lady. And I'm not going to tell you whether he was guilty or not because I really want people to see this. And it won't be long before it's out on streaming. But that's at number 13. Hashtag jury number 2. At number 10 in the current box office top 10, which will all change today because of Gladiator 2. But at number 10 is a film that is the one I haven't seen in the top 10. It's called Piece by Piece. So this is a Lego movie. And I love the Lego movies. I mean, the first Lego movie was just sensational. The Batman Lego movie was out of this world. This is the story of Pharrell Williams, the pop star, told in Lego. Now, I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to say any more than that. I'm going to try and get to see it, but I will try and get to see it. Okay. At number 9 is an Aurora, Anora. Now, this is a film about a young lady who is shall we say, working as an exotic dancer in a nightclub. She falls in a Russian businessman, the son of a Russian businessman, falls madly in love with her. She falls in love with him. He's mega rich. They go off and they get married. But then, just when you think the film's about to settle down, just when you think, okay, this young couple, they've fallen in love, they're in Vegas, they're spending loads of money, they're living it up, they've had the time of their life. Just when you think the film's settling down to sort of be a love story, and suddenly the film changes. 1 hour in, it becomes a totally different film. And it becomes this film about the fact that his parents come from Russia to America because they disapprove of this wedding and they want to annul it. And they want to get a divorce. They want this couple to get divorced. And he, the young man, the young husband, he runs away. So the second half of the film, you've got Russian gangsters trawling around New York, trying to find this guy who's run away from them. And they've dragged his wife along with him. And it becomes a totally different. The first hour, I was bored. The first hour I was thinking, get on with it. Okay, young couple fall in love, spend lots of money, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly, about an hour in, and I did check on my watch, everything changed. And it became an exciting, very, very funny drama with lots of humour, lots of Russian gangsters rushing around. The wife very confused as to what's going on. It became a brilliant film. First hour was rubbish. First hour I could have just quite happily, take half an hour out of the first hour, I'd have been fine. But then suddenly, man alive, does it change, and it becomes a terrific, funny, exciting film, and I really enjoyed it. So I enjoyed the second half, and I think when I get it, if I ever get it on DVD or streaming, I'd probably press pass forward, through the first hour to get to that second hour, because the second hour was definitely worth seeing. Called Anora, number 9. Number 8 in the box office top 10 is a film called Blitz. And I saw this yesterday. This is a fantastic film. It is a tour of war-torn London through the eyes of a 9-year-old boy. So what happens is Saoirse Ronan plays a young mum. She's told she's got to put her boy on the train because he's got to be evacuated because London's in the middle of the Blitz. London's being bombed to bits. This young boy doesn't want to go to the countryside. He wants to stay with his mum. So after about an hour of the train journey, he jumps off the train. And then the rest of the film is about his making his way back to his mum. And along the way, he meets friendly people who help him. He meets cruel people who abuse him. He sees the horrors of war firsthand. There are scenes set in the London Underground where people crowded into the Underground to avoid the bombing. But there is one very dramatic scene where the River Thames bursts. The wall of the Underground station has been weakened and the River Thames bursts in and people start drowning. And he has to get under the gates underwater and rescue people. His grandfather in the film is played by Paul Weller of the pop group The Jam. And so lots of jokes are floating around, because The Jam had a song called Going Underground and, in the tube station at midnight and this sort of thing. So it's very appropriate, really. Paul Weller gives a fantastic performance. But it reminded me at times of Oliver, but set in World War II London. This young lad running around meeting all sorts of different characters. And I sat there, and it's 2 hours long, but the time passed nicely, and I really enjoyed it. So that's at number 8. It's called Blitz. It really worthwhile. Saoirse Ronan is one of my favourite actresses. We talked about her recently. She was in a film called The Outrun. I don't know if you remember. She was the alcohol addict who was going for recovery up in the Outer Hebrides.
Oh, yes.
So she's terrific in this. Absolutely brilliant. It really is a powerful film. And I was sat next to a couple of ladies who laughed during the end credits because this little boy's got a pet cat and the cat gets a special credit at the end of the film, which was rather lovely. The cat survives the Blitz. A lot of people don't. But it really is worthwhile seeing, genuinely worthwhile seeing. Go to see Blitz. Number 7 is Smile 2, which is a horror film. horror sequel. It's a good, if you like horror films, it's a good horror film. Basically, if somebody smiles at you as they are dying, you are going to be haunted, and you are going to be the next person to die. But it's a good horror film. I want to talk about number 6, if we may.
Hmm.
So number 6 is a film called Small Things Like These. It stars Cillian Murphy. Now, Cillian Murphy was all over the place last year because he played Oppenheimer. And if you remember, he won the Oscar for Best Actor in Oppenheimer. That was a big budget, multi-budget, epic film. Small Things Like These is a really small little film. So he plays. We're in the Republic of Ireland in 1985, and Cillian Murphy plays a family man. He's got 5 daughters. He's got a wife. They live in a tiny little house, and he is a coalman. He delivers bags of coal to people, and one of the places on his route is the local convent. Now we know from films like Philomena what was happening in Ireland, and this is a bit topical, Nathan, with what's happened with the Archbishop of Canterbury this week. So we know that there were convents all over the Republic of Ireland in the 80s where young pregnant girls were being taken in, supposedly to be given help and support and comfort, but were actually being treated like slaves, and their babies were taken away from them. There was a very serious film a few years ago starring Judi Dench and Steve Coogan called Philomena, which told the story, a true story of one of these girls who had a baby taken off her by nuns. This is a fictional story. It's not true. But he becomes aware as he delivers coal to this convent that something bad is happening to the young girls in the convent. And he sets out to rescue one of them. It's set at Christmas, so it's quite topical in that regard. I think it is a film that will move people. It's a film that will shock people. Right at the end of the film, we are told that there were 56,000 girls who were used and abused by nuns in convents in the 80s in the Republic of Ireland. 56,000. So it's a very, very powerful film. I really enjoyed it. I thought the performance, Cillian Murphy's terrific performance. But, how do you follow Oppenheimer? Great big budget, massive movie where you follow it up with a really low key film. But it's number 5 in the box office. I think probably on the strength of his name alone. But honestly, it's disturbing, but it's really powerful. And then at number 5 in the box office top 10, and I'm loving doing this because I've seen all of these. We have a great animated film called The Wild Robot. Now, this is about a robot who gets he's on a boat, he's on a ship. The ship is shipwrecked. He survives. He comes onto a deserted island where it's just him and a load of animals. And it's about, initially the animals are terrified of this, mechanoid walking around talking in a strange voice and investigating everything and all these little gadgets. And he's like a walking, talking Alexa in many ways. And the animals are a little bit nervous about him, but he slowly begins to befriend them. And when the company comes to claim him back, the animals don't let him go. And there's a big battle at the end. But it's a brilliant animated film. It is a film that I thought was absolutely delightful to look at, and a really good moving story. And again, probably will feature in my top 10 at the end of the year, but we've still got a way to go and some new releases to come. So The Wild Robot's number 4. 5, number 4 is Venom: The Last Dance. This is a Marvel film. Venom is an alien creature who has attached himself to a human being, and they have all sorts of adventures. So this is the 3rd film in the Venom series. It's rubbish. It's awful. It's terrible. It is just pathetically bad. And I sat there thinking, please, please, please end. I know this is the last film in the series. Thank heavens for that, because I don't want to have to sit through any more of these, And I've sat through the first 2. The last one was called Venom Carnage. It should have been called Venom Car Crash. Okay, this is called Venom: The Last Dance, and it should have a hallelujah at the end of it. No good science fiction, but it's just the CGI is terrible, the special effects are terrible, the acting's terrible, the story's terrible. It's all about Area 51 closing down, where they've got all these UFOs in America, and don't bother, folk. Number 3 is a really interesting film for us at Pure, because number 3 is a film called Heretic. So this starts with 2 Mormons. Now, I do door-to-door work as an evangelist. I go to people's homes and I knock on the door and I say, hi, can I give you a Christian newspaper or a Bible? And would you be interested in talking about Jesus Christ? Okay. We know the Jehovah's Witnesses do this. The Mormons do this as well. This film starts with 2 Mormons knocking on a door in a house in the middle of nowhere. And Hugh Grant opens the door and they go, would you like to learn more about the Church of Latter-day Saints and the Church of Jesus Christ? And much to their shock and amazement, he goes, yes, please, come in. Now, that doesn't happen. You know, it happens once in a blue moon, in my experience, okay? And I've been doing it for 40, 50 years. These girls look at each other and go, wow! And they say, well, we can't come in, because unless your wife's here, unless there's another woman present, we're not allowed to come in and be alone with a man, which is sensible. He says, no, my wife's here. She's got a pie in the oven. I'm sure you like pie. Come on in. And so on. Turns out he hasn't got a wife. The first hour of the film is him discussing with them religion. Really fascinating. I got so into it because he's talking about the foibles of different religions. He's talking about comparing different religions. He's talking about Judaism and Christianity and Mormonism and the Catholic Church and the Evangelical Church. It's a really fascinating, for somebody like me, particularly, and all my friends who've seen it really enjoyed it as well, who aren't Christians. It's a really fascinating first hour. Then it turns sinister because they slowly begin to realize he hasn't got to, hang on, where's your wife? Where's the pie you promised us? They slowly begin to realize something's wrong. And then he says, well, you're welcome to leave, but you can't go out the front because I've locked the front door because it's got dark. You'd have to go out the back. When they go out the back door, when they go to the back of the house, there are 2 doors. And on one is written belief and on one is written disbelief. And he says, choose your path. And then for the next hour, it becomes a very, very sinister, very creepy, quite scary, quite unnerving horror film. Because this guy's nuts, basically. Hugh Grant is a psycho. But the performance is fantastic. It's a really interesting film. So that's at number 3. Number 2, we have got, believe it or not, our first Christmas movie of the year. My heart sinks because Christmas for me starts on the 1st of December, right? So number 2, we got a big budget action movie called Red 1. Basically, Santa Claus has got a team of people, lives in a big city in the North Pole that is covered by a shield that nobody can detect him. You know, radar, satellites can't detect where he is. And he's got a team of bodyguards. Okay? Santa has got a team of SAS-style bodyguards. The lead bodyguard is played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Despite having this amazing shield over the grotto and over the place where he lives, baddies break in and kidnap Santa. I've lost count of the number of movies I've seen where Santa has been kidnapped. I mean, this is just retreading old ground that we have been over so many times. I mean, you think about there was a film in the 50s called Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, which is a really funny film in which Martians kidnap Santa Claus, okay? You've got a film, The Nightmare Before Christmas, in which characters from Halloween Town kidnap Santa. Great, great musical. I love that film. You've got so many other films where stuff happens to Santa and he has to be there. And we've got to save Christmas. And if we don't find Santa in time, Christmas will be ruined. We've got to save Christmas, you know. And I have lost count. The Santa Claus. The first movie was all about, we got to save Christmas, you know. Santa Claus, the movie was, we got to save Christmas. You know? It's all about Christmas going wrong and Father Christmas having some sort of big problem or being kidnapped and we got to save Christmas. In order to save Santa, his bodyguard recruits somebody who's probably the world's best computer hacker, because he needs to find out how, and it's just rubbish. I mean, it's just terrible. There are some action sequences that are really, really poor. The CGI, again, I don't quite understand it. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson reputedly was paid $50 billion, and that's the only reason, obviously, why he did the film. I can think of no other reason why he would do this film, because the dialogue's terrible, the setup is terrible. It's supposed, I don't know who it's aimed at. I mean, it's a 12 certificate. It's not aimed at kids because there's some innuendo in this. There are jokes about dolls, women, action figures like Wonder Woman coming to life. So it's not. There's stuff in there that is way above the head of kids. All right. There is stuff in there that adults are just going to go, oh, this is sickening and this is boring. And, yet another scene of people in a toy shop fighting over a toy. Every Christmas movie ever been done has had that scene in it. There's nothing original about it. It brings nothing new to the table. And please let this end. And speaking of being disappointed, and this might come as a shock to some people, the number one in the box office is Paddington in Peru. Now, I don't know if you saw the first two Paddington movies. First two Paddington movies are wonderful. Nicole Kidman played the villain in the first one. Hugh Grant again played the villain in the second one. And they were based on the Michael Bond books. Now, Michael Bond wrote 29 Paddington books. Not one of them is set in Peru. They're all great. They're lovely. The Paddington books, I read them as a kid. The Paddington books are terrific. Not one is set in Peru. The Paddington books are all about this bear being taken out of the jungle and being plonked in a big city and having adventures. The filmmakers have now decided, we need to take him back to Peru. No, you don't, because it doesn't work. And basically, Paddington becomes Indiana Jones. You know the scene in Indiana Jones where he's running from the giant ball? We've got a scene of Paddington running from a giant ball. I'm sorry, but that's getting old and tired, and we've seen it before, and there's no need to repeat it, And we've got basically a search for lost treasure. Aunt Lucy, the reason they go to Peru is that Aunt Lucy has gone missing. Paddington's Aunt Lucy has gone missing in Peru, so they have to go and find her. That's the setup. There was a film a few years ago, also starring Jane Johnson, called Jungle Adventure, which was based on a ride you can do in Disneyland, where you ride down a boat, you would get on a boat and you ride down a river looking for lost treasure. This is like a rehash of that. This is a rehash of like Indiana Jones' greatest hits. It's not very good because they have taken Paddington and plonked him out of where he should be. They've taken the character and they've tried to, some would argue they've been brave. I know some people who've enjoyed it, but I don't know anybody. And I've read dozens of reviews of this and I've spoken to loads of people about it because it's a number one film. I don't know anybody who thought this was great. I know people who enjoyed it, but I don't know anybody who thought this was really great or in the spirit of what Paddington should be, So I was disappointed. But that said, if you go and see it, folks, if you do go and see it, stay for the end credits. Because the best bit of the film is the end credit sequences. And there's a sequence right at the very, 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 very end after about 5 minutes of credits, Stay for those because they are worth seeing. But for me, they are the only bits of the film that were worth seeing. My daughter Amy was seeing it in Jersey at the same time I was seeing it. And when I came out of the cinema and we messaged each other, she just said, Dad, that was a total disappointment because we both loved the first two Paddington films. So there you go. Nathan, Paddington's number one in the box office. It was a foregone conclusion he would be. Next time we speak, I think Gladiator 2 will be. But in the top 10, the ones that I would recommend for pure listeners, go see, if you're going to cinema, go see The Wild Robot, go see Small Things Like These, and go see Jura #2, which is number 13, but or number 12. And there you go. That's the current top 10, and I've whittled on, and you've sat there very patiently. And but I hope people have enjoyed hearing that review of the top 10.
No, that was fantastic. Thanks so much, Andy. Good to hear about the top 10. And it's a shame there's so many disappointments, really. So many of those sound like they should be brilliant, you know? For example, Paddington, a follow on from the two sequels, as you say, the two prequels to that were, I think, brilliant. Just
They were actually superb, and
yeah,
you had that very funny moment at the end of Paddington 2 with Hugh Grant doing a song and dance number in prison,
yes,
which was just wearing pink, um, wearing a pink prison costume. Um, yeah, it's really disappointing. And as I say, they used to do this with sitcoms. So when they would make a movie of, when they made a movie of a sitcom, they would say, okay, let's take the characters and send them abroad. That happened with the numbers. Only Fools and Horses did it. They sent Del Boy and Rodney to America, and several other sitcoms did it where they made a movie, but they took the characters and sent them on holiday, whatever. It never works. It never works, taking the characters out of the environment where they are supposed to be. And that's what they've done with Paddington. And as I said, I know people who've enjoyed it, but I don't know anybody who thought it was great. So
yeah,
we've got a couple of films we can watch at home, if you want me to just mention those. So
yeah,
I
sure.
just mentioned two that we can watch at home. So one is a brand new film called on Netflix called Emilia Perez. And the best thing for me to do is to read to you what Netflix themselves say about it. Declared exhilarating and dazzling by Variety magazine, this operatic, genre-defying crime drama follows a mafia boss who is transitioning to a new way of life. Emilia Perez, that's on Netflix. Very, very good film. Been highly rated by many critics. And also available to watch at home now is a film we talked about a few weeks ago called Lee. Kate Blanchett plays Lee. Plays Lee Miller. She was the first woman photographer to get into Germany at the end of World War II and take photographs of Hitler's house and take photographs of the concentration camps and really bring home to the world the horrors of what has happened. She was the first woman photographer, basically, to photograph the war. And that's now widely available to watch at home. So those two films are good. Those are about the only new ones coming out this weekend to watch at home. But I hope people will enjoy their cinema trips, and and if people want to let us know what they think, that would be great, wouldn't it? If we could get some emails.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know your thoughts on any of these films that Andy Godfrey's mentioned, or perhaps you've seen one and you're wondering, you might maybe share your thoughts on it, or maybe you've actually heard one of Andy Godfrey's reviews and perhaps you disagree. We can discuss. After all, it's that diversity of opinion that creates such colour in the world of cinema.
It really does, and I love discussing it. As you know, I run a Facebook page with 6,000 people on it, all who do nothing all day, every day, but discuss movies. And also, just to say, I was in Southampton this week, and I was in Dunstable last week doing film nights for churches. So these are under the banner of my book. So we come to your church. We could do an evening called Confessions of a Christian Film Critic. We'll have a quiz. We'll have some fun. We'll show lots of clips from movies. And then we'll bring in the Jesus story and use a particular movie to illustrate the story of Jesus and why I'm not only passionate about movies, but I'm passionate about following Jesus Christ. So if anybody wants to get in touch with me again via Pure and book me up to come to your church to speak at an event, love to do that. And that would be great fun. We had a really good fun evening with about 25 men in Southampton on Tuesday. We served curry. We were in a sports hall, and all the guys got a drink, and we served up curry, and then I did a 45-minute presentation, including a quiz and lots and lots of movie clips. So if anybody's interested in that, more than happy to come.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. And also, you can get Andy Godfrey's book on Amazon, can't you? What's it called again?
It's called Faith on Film: Confessions of a Christian Film Critic, forward by Steve Legg,
Yes,
who
indeed.
we film this every day. Steve, in his forward, says, "A Christian film critic. What next? A vegan butcher?" So
Yeah.
that's but yeah, no, thank you, Nathan, for that. Yeah, the book is make a great Christmas present, folks.
Absolutely. It's a really interesting look at cinema from so many different refreshing angles, really. It's
Thank
really
you.
interesting. So yeah, well, thanks so much,
Great.
Andy. Great to hear about all those films. Hope you enjoy those films, whether you watch them in cinema or maybe at home if they're available on streaming. But thank you so much, Andy. I look forward to speaking again soon.
Yeah, we'll do. And we'll have a review of Gladiator too.
Yes.
Thanks, Nathan. God bless you. God bless Pierre.
Rated 5 stars by Sorted Magazine's film critic, Pure 247 takes you behind the scenes of the birth of a global Christian radio station. Andy B will have you laughing and crying as you discover what it takes to create ministry that matters in this inspiring tale of perseverance, honesty, and vulnerability. Buckle up and get ready for a story that's uplifting as it is entertaining. Behind the microphone, they face bankruptcy, eviction, and 2 life-changing surgeries. Can they make it? Will they make it? Get your copy of this life-changing book today. Pure 247 is available now on Amazon. Andy B is best described as a man after God's own heart, who insists that God's vision and resourcing trump all handicaps.